Hello, KBOI. This is Dylan Stalker, The Great Idaho Show. We are doing the Sheriff Series today. We are speaking to another Sheriff of Idaho. I intend to speak to all 44 Sheriffs of Idaho over the next many months. And what is the purpose? It is just simply trying to get a reflection in time, in history, in Idaho, in being a sheriff in Idaho. And today we're going to talk to a great one, I believe, one that has a tough challenge. But before we do, don't forget, as you've been listening for many weeks, our sponsor, Old Arms of Idaho, the ambassadors to America's heritage. You have a firearm collection. You have a Western collection. You have a militaria collection. You have the need to get the value or find the value out of it. oldarmsofidaho.com. Again, the ambassadors to America's heritage, the 24-hour gun show. Check it out. And now I welcome Sheriff Matt Clifford of Ada County. Welcome to the Sheriff Series, good sir.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. As most of the sheriffs have that I've reached out to since I started this project, I was like, hey, I'm a nobody. I love radio and I love Idaho. I'm a nobody, but would you like to talk to me? And every one of the sheriffs were like, sure. There wasn't even a single, well, we can't talk about this or this, we can't do this. There's no rules. I love that about this. So far, the sheriffs that I've spoken to, you were the same. And what I think of in the sheriff is professionalism. And I have learned that most of, I'm sure we'll find some differences out there, the sheriffs are of Idaho, grew a career in Idaho, have worked themselves up the chain to become what I believe is the most challenging elected official job in all of politics, because there is pure, real, actual hands-on life and death involved, and there is a lot of public opinion involved. Matt Clifford, welcome. I'll start off and just say, how did you get here?
Oh, geez. So first, I'd love to make a comment on you talking about, talking to sheriffs and how you say, well, I just said I want to talk to these sheriffs, and they said, okay. Yeah. But I think really what happened, I think you talked to one sheriff who said, hey, this is okay. Yeah. And though there's 44 of us and we don't always agree and we're not all in a tight-knit group, we are in a still a tight-knit group, if that makes sense. So
by design, right?
Correct.
I mean, you all suffer from the same scenarios.
And so when you get a sheriff in Idaho that says, hey, this thing, trust this person, I've been there to say, hey, reach out to this person. I trust them, and talk to them about whatever you need.
Yeah.
You tend to get, okay, the kind of the club, if you will, of 44 people says, okay, well, we trust each other. Even though we don't always agree on things, we trust each other because of the way this profession is set up. So I think that's what you get. You break through with one and you can get to them all. So which is a special thing, I think, in this state. So I don't know. That was just what I was thinking about.
I got to say that, like, truly, I am two things. I love radio and I love Idaho, but I don't claim to be the best at it. And I don't claim to be the number one. That was probably the greatest compliment I've received. And I don't expect that. I appreciate that.
Yep.
So
Sheriff Turner reached out to us and I sent a message to my exec assistant and said, well, reach out to this person. Sheriff Turner says that we should talk to him, and so let's do. And I didn't even know anything about you, but there's a trust there, but amongst all of us of, okay, well, we're not going to get each other in hot water, so he's not going to set me up with some guy that's looking.
There's no setup here. Right? There are some challenging things that have come up over this whole Sheriff Series, I have to say. And of course, I would expect you to be a professional. Like, you already know my blood type, where I live, how many times I've posted on Instagram in the past. I haven't posted on Instagram. That's a farce. I don't do Instagram. But, you're a professional. You've got to know the environment you're about to walk into.
Yes.
You are the sheriff of the most populated county in Idaho that has a lot of difference of opinions on how we carry this lifestyle forward.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there are a lot of challenges here just because of kind of the makeup of the county, how many people live here.
Sure.
Sometimes how the rest of Idaho sees Ada County as, the great state of Ada. So that's sometimes is a challenge for me as a sheriff. And I have to kind of think back to my roots because I come from small town Idaho, very far from here.
But where is that? Come on, let's get back in a little bit of
sure.
of
Let's
early
do that.
Matt Clifford.
So I come from a town nobody's heard of called Mullan, Idaho. So
That is one of the greatest weeds that ever lived as medicinal purposes. I love it.
It's a small town in the Silver Valley in Shoshone County. So right on I-90 on the Idaho-Montana border, mining town, some logging. I mean, in the kind of the thick pine of a valley. The most beautiful place you've ever seen. In my opinion, a very special place to grow up. I kind of attribute some of the feelings I have about people and community to growing up in this tiny town. And I'll try not to get off too many tangents.
Oh, it's quite all right. You're welcome here.
The town itself, I had a realization a year after COVID, or it was kind of letting up, and my wife and I went back, and we're high school sweethearts, so we both came from that town.
Yeah.
And we went back, and we went to 2 funerals in one day in town because they couldn't get the funerals done because of COVID and those types of things. So we go back, and our beloved athletic director had passed, and another member of the community who were very good friends with his children, and I was sitting there talking to people at this reception, and they said, "Hey, we've been watching what's going on down there in Ada County with you, and all the
That's
races."
a pretty big microscope there all of a sudden.
And I said, "Why?" Because nobody growing up where I grew up, nobody pays attention to Boise. It's so far away, and it's such a different world. They said, "Well, I mean, we're interested in what's happening with you, and we're really watching this sheriff stuff." And I started talking to somebody, and I said, "You know what? This is a special place because there are towns." I mean, when there was about 800 people there when I was growing up, and there are a lot of those towns in Idaho, but you see a lot of them as kind of farm towns, and people are spread way out. Well, where I grew up, we're in the woods, and it's like a square mile, and all those 800 people, they live right there.
So my residence is in Loman. It's very similar.
Right.
Very similar.
So you have that sense of, well, we really have to take care of each other, right? We really look out for each other. It's all of those kind of same old cliche type things. But when you have, a few hundred people in one place and everybody's trying to make their way, but they do it kind of cooperatively in this, we'll help everybody raise their kids, kind of that it takes a village, that old hat, right?
And it's
very
true.
much, it really very
does.
much that sentiment.
Neighborly, good old character traits.
100%. So, though I came from this tiny little town and, meager means, if you will, I talk about it quite a bit in that, hey, I came from this place you never heard of, but it's very special to me.
Sure.
So I kind of want you to know about it, And so that's where I come from, a place like that. But I made my way down to Boise in 1995. I grew my whole life up in that. My whole childhood was in Mullan. And I made my way down to Boise to kind of distance myself so I could be a little more independent. Because I knew if I went to...
It's like most small town kids be like, this town ain't making me. I got to go see the world. I'm going to
I'm a
the
hardcore
biggest son of a gun out there.
Hardcore Gen Xer, right? Like, oh, nobody's going to help me out. I'll help myself.
Yeah. Latchkey kids.
Yeah, exactly. Latchkey kids.
100%.
And so I knew if I went to college at U of I, it was too close because I'd be coming home every weekend.
Yeah.
And I'd probably have a lot of reliance on my parents, who are great. I grew up in a very normal, loving household, but I really wanted that independence. So I came down to Boise, went to Boise State, got my biology degree. I was going to do something with fish and game, is what I thought. I did end up working for Fish and Game in endangered species fish, raising sockeye salmon for that we release into the lakes in Stanley.
Sure.
Did that for a number of years while I was going to college, and then my wife, who luckily followed me down here before we got married.
We're all lucky for our wives, right? I will say that right now. 25 years of marriage, I'm a lucky man.
Yep, same. We're on 28, and I'm lucky to have her. But she said, I've been putting you through college, working full time. You're getting ready to graduate. You better find yourself a job, because now you're going to do it for me, and I'm going to give my notice at work. Like, hold on a minute here. So I couldn't keep working at the fish hatchery for no money, and so she was taking law enforcement classes at night, and she kept telling me, or classes at BSU, the intro to law enforcement. She said, a SWAT operator would come in, a canine handler, like every night someone new would come in. I said, well, that sounds interesting. I knew I wanted to work with people, and I didn't want to be stuck inside.
Ooh, let me say this, because that's a great statement right there. We have about 48 seconds left. Okay. We've got 3 more segments. We are talking to Sheriff Matt Clifford of Ada County. If you're just tuning in to KBOI 670 AM, 93.1 FM, covering more than the state of Idaho, we are breaking boundaries out here. That's who we're talking to today for the Sheriff series of The Great Idaho Show, thegreatidahoshow.com. And as we always say, I don't get paid, so the only way to pay myself is to be my own sponsor, Old Arms of Idaho, oldarmsofidaho.com, the greatest collectible firearms, Western, and military business in all of this land. We will be right back with Sheriff Matt Clifford of Ada County. KBOI listeners, this is it, The Great Idaho Show. This is Dylan Stalker, your host. We today are again focused on the Sheriff series, where I intend to talk to every single Idaho sheriff, all 44 of them, and just give them an opportunity to say, hey, what's going on with being a sheriff? I'm a sucker for the sheriff because it is the toughest elected official job in all of politics. Or is it politics? I don't believe so. It is about law and order, and that's the bottom line. So again, we're talking to Matt Clifford. We just finished this last segment with some good reflection on what I believe gives you a basis, Matt, for what your policing efforts are. How do you tie that small town cultural experience into one of the fastest growing communities in the Northwest? There's some weird balances in there.
There are, because not only do I have these small town ties, but I'm living in one of the fastest growing places.
Sure.
Not that it's so big, but it's still growing. So I think, I'm able to take that sense of community that I grew up with and really balance what I'm supposed to be doing with that idea of like, well, I guess I'm a politician, right?
Man, that's such a terrible word.
Guys,
I got to scrap that off of you. I take that off of every sheriff because that's
awful.
Ridiculous.
It is.
It's ridiculous.
It is, especially because, in this business, I tell people, we're not legislators. We're not hired by the people to vote a certain way,
right?
Or we're hired for public safety. And that applies to every single person in the community. So I literally cannot stand on party lines and look at the other party and go, well, sorry, you're not really my constituent, so I'm not going to be able to give you the service that you want.
Yeah, you voted the wrong way. Yeah, whatever way that is, you're out.
Correct. And even you make it more extreme. You're a criminal, so sorry, you're a victim. I can't give you service. To say that to people is like, no, I mean, if the criminal guy gets stabbed, we still have to.
You got to still
a victim
have
of a crime,
heart and compassion for those, regardless.
Correct.
If you're a criminal, you can still have crime upon you too.
Correct. So that's kind of that kind of line you got to walk of everybody gets service. So yep, I belong to a certain party and I get voted in by my party, but at the end of the day, I have to serve everybody regardless
100%.
Of whatever, even if they're part of something I don't like. You know what? They still get public safety service.
Is it the one sentence saying "crime is crime" and that's a line? That's the way. That's what crime is crime and that's a line.
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had people that are protesting law enforcement. We had Black Lives Matter folks here years ago, and I was in charge of there was a very small contingent of them outside Senator Rish's house, and I patrolled that area for a million years, and but I went down there. I know the area, and I had to set them up to make sure that they were safe. And I thought, how ironic is this? Because the minute I explained to them, hey, this is how you can operate. We put these things here so cars don't run you over, blah, 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 blah. Do you have any questions? And they give you a blank stare, and they just start protesting. Like, you're welcome, but that's my job, right?
Yeah.
To make sure people don't get hurt, that
Yeah.
there's public safety. And they're allowed to, use their First Amendment right. And then we stand across the street listening to them rant about us. I thought, this is the most ironic thing I've seen in my life. I just helped these people, and they stared at me and didn't say thank you, but just then went about their business saying how horrible we were. But okay, whatever. That's what I got to do.
Yeah, it's what. And man, talk about the last 5 years. when it comes to law enforcement, the concepts of COVID, and, do you support the mayor or do you support the city and do all those things? We're not going to get into that today because today is today.
Yeah.
You have some challenges today as the sheriff of Ada County. What would you describe are your biggest challenges today?
Some of our challenges are cultural, and I mean that kind of in our community. And when I say cultural, I mean geographically cultural. When you have people that move here from different places in the nation, I always say we have amazing people that move here from out of state. You name the state, they're amazing.
Sure.
But a lot of times they land here and it's just a different culture. While they were basically kind of the same, a lot of the same, religious beliefs, a lot of the same political beliefs, all of those things, but the way they interact with people are sometimes different. And that's sometimes challenging for us, even when we get deputies from out of state and the way we do business. Hey, this is how we do business in our community. A lot of them integrate very quickly because they're hungry for that, right? They're hungry for these people like us to be in their community.
Like minds flock together, right?
And so that is a little more easy to overcome. But just that rapid growth and that when you're with a law enforcement agency that takes so long to get someone trained up from the time of application to the time that they can be on the road by themselves, that rapid growth, it makes it a huge bump in the road to say, okay, now we need this many more people, and it's going to take so long. Whereas when we were kind of when the population leveled out here a little bit, it was just, we had a retirement, we know we need that person. This person got fired, we know we need
more about EMS than it is.
It was easier to kind of facilitate the hiring and training. Now, hey, I need 4 deputies tomorrow. I need 6 deputies the next day, and so that's tough to try and get that contingent of people ready and out on the street and make sure they're trained really well and they're equipped really well. And quite frankly, over the years, the law enforcement industry has become much, much more expensive. The equipment's specialized.
I mean, inflation is a real thing across all industries, period. Your 100%. Budgets have had to inflate by any number of 10, 15, 20, 30%. No matter how you slice it up, fuel is not getting any cheaper, right?
Correct.
We still have cars to drive.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot more industry in law that is related to or directed at law enforcement, I should say, and that knows, you need this specialized tool, and we're kind of the only one that makes it. So this is how much it costs.
Yeah.
So we are really at the whim of the industry of law enforcement. You can't just decide, we're not going to buy that stuff then. We still need to buy it, and we still need to have it. Yeah. So how are we going to pay for it?
And what's the motivation for buying that certain piece of equipment? It's risk management.
Correct.
If I don't have that piece of equipment, then I failed the community for not finding the money to do it. However, there might be some challenges in that. We'll get to that. But can law be a simple equation? Well, you grew by this many people, which means that you should have this many deputies, which you should be writing that we know there's this. Is that a concept?
So there is a concept out there as far as you should have, this many law enforcement officers per 1,000.
Yeah.
That's very much a very basic.
That's a nationwide statistic,
it is,
probably.
And it's very basic. So some if you say, so the super basic one is 1 per 1,000. That's kind of your bottom line. You should have 1 law enforcement officer per 1,000 people. 1
baddie in every 1,000 ain't bad.
Right? But most places, they look at something higher than that. I think nationally the average is more like 2.5. So there is somewhat of an equation of, hey, if you could get 1 per 1,000, at least you're at some kind of baseline.
Yeah.
But you have to look at kind of your community too, right?
Okay.
Some places that have historically more crime, you're going to need more law enforcement, more resources.
Sure.
And some places that have that are very beautiful, wonderful places to live, sometimes they think, well, we don't need that many resources. Well, you still want to maintain it, so make sure that you have enough that's going to maintain.
Yeah.
City of Eagle is a great example where they just did a study for how how much law enforcement they think they should have. In fact, I just talked to the chief about an hour ago and said, "Hey, how'd that study come out?"
Let me clarify something. You are a man that came with experience from Eagle. Some
Correct.
people may not know this.
Yeah.
They're not just asking the sheriff of Ada County about what's happening in Eagle. You have been there. You were the chief of police in Eagle. So
Yes.
your opinion, I think, is valid there.
Yeah, I worked there for a couple of years, and it's one of our contract cities. So the chief works for me in conjunction with the mayor and
Sure.
council. But it's one of those things that you can't help it, right? If I was there for a number of years as the chief of police, I tend to be a little more curious about, hey, make sure you keep me informed of what's going on.
Yeah, you still have a care for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You never lose that care.
Yeah, but so those equations are there. There is no one equation though that says this is exactly what everyone needs, because everyone has different needs.
We have different cultural makeups. We have different people moving here from different places.
Yep.
And what I seem to recognize, again, I am nobody special. I do love Idaho. I love radio. I'm just trying to communicate with those that I have some care for. The sheriff, I think, is an amazing role in our communities. But, like at a certain point, your community grows to a point where the really bad crimes come no matter what. And
Yes.
Is Ada County getting to that? Are we getting to that point where there is always going to be something really bad happening?
I don't know that I'd say really bad, but we definitely are at the point where we just have crime here. Now, I always tell people the crime rate is still really good, but to put some math to it.
When does it tip the scale,
Right, to put some math
when do we
to it,
go to
Yeah.
Boise, Detroit?
Correct. And that's what we're trying to keep from happening.
Right.
Because the population grows, we're going to have more crime just statistically.
Okay.
And so we work really hard to keep that crime rate low, but we're working harder because there are more people. So but that's just kind of the way of the world.
That's just the way of the world.
Yeah.
You signed up for it.
Yeah.
It could be the greatest thing in your life, or we'll see. But you seem to be handling it pretty well.
I'm trying.
A very solid charisma there.
Yeah.
But we're going to move into this next segment, and this next segment are a little bit more of about some of the challenge. And no matter what, when you're the sheriff, you have a responsibility. You have this thing that you sign up for, and it boils down to the Constitution. This thing that everybody thinks is really important, but nobody seems to understand. And you want to do the right thing, but how do you get there? It's not free. This is Dylan Stalker, The Great Idaho Show, thegreatidahoshow.com, the Sheriff Series, all 44 sheriffs. We're talking to Matt Clifford, and we will be right back. Okay, welcome back, KBOI again. Dylan Stalker, the Sheriff Series, talking to Matt Clifford, Ada County Sheriff. This is 670 AM, 93.1 FM, the greatest radio in all of Idaho. And getting into this segment, what this is coming from is that me, a person that is a nobody, that is just talking to what I believe generally good, honest, driven people with a tough challenge. Sometimes you find out that many of them have a similar thing to say, and many of them have a similar thought. And maybe that's because within the industry itself, there's a concept, an issue. I'm going to say something, Matt, that I believe has come very forwardly from another sheriff I talked to, Sheriff Sam Hulse of Bonneville County.
Yeah, friend of mine.
That is, I thought was very professionally represented. And I just simply wondered, is there a legislative disconnect between all of the Idaho legislature? They have a tough job. I have much respect for the legislature. I am not an attacker. I'm not calling anybody out. A few names have been shared over this, but is there one? What is the disconnect? What's going on?
I would agree with Sheriff Hulse, and he and I, like I said, he and I are good friends, and so I'm not surprised.
Okay, we have to disregard everything you say now because
Yeah.
you're friends with Sam Hulse.
we haven't talked about
But
this.
honesty is the key when you're the sheriff, and I love
absolutely. But yes, there is some disconnect there, and it's not everyone. And I have good friends that are in the legislature. I do, and I think it seems to me sometimes that everyone loves this romanticized concept of we back the blue and we get that, and the public backs us and all those things.
I think so, generally speaking.
Oh, absolutely.
In a state like ours, certainly that's the truth.
I mean, we're better off than most. But when it comes to the legislature, they have a job to do. They're balancing budgets, making laws, all of those things. And we usually don't get in the business of balancing their budgets and those types of things. But when it comes to making laws, that I think sometimes is where we see it falter, where we get hey, thanks for your input. We back the blue. We appreciate everything you do. And then they turn around and do the opposite of what we would say, hey, this might be a bad idea. Or, hey, now I'm not saying that when sheriffs come up there, they should, we want a law that says this and we get it. That's not what I'm saying. But there are a number of times where you get up and you testify to say, hey, who wrote this law? Because guess who's going to be enforcing it? It's going to be these guys.
Sure.
And the sheriffs are going to be left holding the bag when the public goes, how dare you? And so is this really constitutional? Because who told you it was? Or
interesting, true, because your job is the Constitution, and sometimes the law can pass something that doesn't really apply to that concept, right?
And we talk about this ugly term politician, where the sheriffs are elected, but that term politician, it doesn't apply entirely to us, because we know somebody really wants us to do a thing, but we're very much bound by our constitutional duties, whether it's Idaho Constitution or the U.S. Constitution. So I know what you're doing really sounds like a cool thing, because
it gets a lot of votes.
It gets the votes, it gets attention, but as soon as it gets passed into law, you don't have to deal with it anymore.
Sure.
And now we have to go and say, hey, if we're to enforce this law and it's not constitutional, we're liable. It's not the legislator. It's Sheriff Matt Clifford is liable for violating someone's rights.
Sure.
And so we try and get that concept over them of like, hey, we're not trying to stand and be a bunch of whiners and saying we just don't want to do that. Hey, we want to tell you this is going to be the outcome, because while we're not attorneys, we work within the law so much, and this really doesn't seem to be constitutional.
Yeah.
And there needs to be.
And you guys consult. I mean, it's not like you're a single individual. You have a National Sheriff's Association. Yes. You have battle buddies out there in the field that have maybe had people attempt to try to take them down over a similar thing, and they had to go through the rigor of getting the legal process figured out with that.
Absolutely. We have a lot of avenues that and a lot of a lot of people that we kind of surround ourselves with to say, hey, if we do this, is this going to be okay? ISA, Idaho Sheriff's Association, we have an attorney, our own attorney. We consult with the prosecutors all the time on whether a law is going to be constitutional or not. So when we come to the table, we really, to be bold, we really need to be heard to say, if you do this, it really appears you're
forcing me to do this way.
Yes. So, and then where they take it from there, sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
And when they don't, I always think, well, we're kind of the subject matter experts on some of those things of upholding people's rights, because that's kind of what public safety is.
Sure.
I mean, your right to go to the grocery store and not get mugged, your right to be able to drive your kids to school and not get hit by a drunk driver, your right to not have your rights violated by other parts of the government. So, again, that romantic, we back the blue, you keep saying that, but you're not listening, and that, again, that doesn't mean we get everything we want, but I think this next session, we really need to be heard a lot more. We saw legislators that listened to people outside the sphere of Idaho law enforcement, and we who's that person? And why would you not ask us about this thing instead of that person who's not practicing law in Idaho, who's not enforcing law in Idaho? They're not even from here.
They have a national objective, not a state level objective. And you're an Idaho state legislator, not trying to support a national program and invite national money to influence you to get more votes and things like that. Again, I support our legislature too. I am very naive, and I am just simply giving some people the opportunity to speak. Again, I've invited some individuals to come speak on the program in the contrast as a legislature. I invited Mike Moyle to come in and say, hey, what about this? Because what I'm discovering is what it seems like to me very quickly is there's a lot of fiefdoms that all claim to be that they're all about Idaho and we're the number ones and we're looking out for everybody. And this is this, the legislators looking out for Idaho as they should be, but it's all about less taxes. I support that.
Sure.
I'm not trying to get more property tax. I've had my minor little bits of success, and every time you get successful, they're coming after you. You know, you have the blue. This is a law and order state.
It is.
I support that.
That's why it's safe here.
That is why it's safe here. Thanks. Without the law and order, it wouldn't be what's happening in Washington, D.C. right now.
Yeah.
And then you have another fiefdom contingent, which is you have the social media, fast-growing influencers that have so-called 35,000 followers, and I've done this for Idaho and all this stuff. I'll be candid about this. What I'm learning is most of them are not from Idaho, and they're political refugees that are trying to teach us how to be conservatives when you moved here for a reason. And I'm making a small call out for that.
I'm 100% on board with you with that statement.
Propaganda sharing going on out there, Matt.
I agree with you. You see even people that kind of attack us as law enforcement or something we've done, and they we look at our social media as the sheriff's office, and like, why would somebody just randomly attack us on this thing that we posted? And you look, a lot of those people aren't from here. They're from somewhere else. Yeah, they're not from here. And sometimes they're bots. You're like, this is obviously AI.
National Agenda Staff AI.
Yeah.
I got to say one, okay? So I have a program where I meet people.
Yes.
Okay. I've been in an industry where you can get a judge of character fairly quickly. My opinion is that your sheriff has generally a high judge of character for the fact of what they're doing. Most of the sheriffs I've met are born and raised Idaho, worked themselves up the chain. There's a good sense of character and law and order there. But I've met Kieran Donahue, and I say this, like he is like that John Dutton style, character that is law and order. And I posted a 60-second clip of him just describing, some of his challenges with the jail.
Yep.
Okay. We have a jail problem from what I understand. Yep. And the out of state, new to Idaho social media influencers of so-called Idaho politics called Kieran Donahue a illegal alien sympathizer. And it's all about 287G.
Yeah.
Please tell me about 287G and destroy the myth. What is going on, or am I'm just an outsider?
Yeah, I actually heard about this through the grapevine. And first of all, to say that Kieran Donahue is an illegal alien sympathizer, I mean, that's the weirdest thing I've never heard that come out of anybody's mouth. And Kieran and I are friends. And he's got a lot of experience, and he's taught me a lot of things. And that was the most outrageous
I mean, it just told me that the social media, there's a disconnect. They're just
100%.
They have no idea what they're talking about.
They don't. And I actually talk about this quite a bit with a lot of people in the public. I just did it last week on a conference call, and just because people don't understand how ICE even works, especially here in Idaho. And so in regard to the 287G program, the state police did that. They're part of the 287G for a very specific reason. Yeah. And I do not want to speak for the colonel or the governor.
And nobody should speak for anybody else.
But they did that for some very legitimate reasons.
Yep.
But I am have the same problem that Kieran has as far as jail space. As recently as this morning, we talk about it every day. We're in the same position that Kieran is in. And that
it's a moving target.
It is. It really is. And that we don't have the space to house the ICE detainees in our jail. And so to say, hey, bring them all here and house them here, we literally can't. But we still work in conjunction with ICE every single, and I'm literally every single day. And I try and explain to people that, ICE doesn't just go scoop people up and throw them in a county jail. That's not how that works. But what they do is we arrest people, and then we realize we think these people might be illegal. We contact ICE, and they confirm that or deny it. Or we send ICE a list of everyone that got arrested every day of the week. We send that to them. They get it every morning, and they can look and say, okay, somebody's in your jail. So as soon as they're done with local charges, ICE comes, they put a detainer on, they pick them up, and they take them to an ICE facility. So we're constantly working with them as far as the folks in our jail. And even the same type of thing happens on the street. And if they're going to go get a violent criminal that's here illegally, we assist them in doing that.
I mean, let's get right to it. This is all about get to the violent crimes.
Correct.
Let's focus on the priorities first. We have some national problems impacting community scenarios. And it's not free, ladies and gentlemen.
It is not.
We do have budgets to balance. We do have things to do. Coming into this next segment, I could talk to you for a long time. I think that the sheriff could talk quite a bit on a daily basis about the many things that are happening. But again, as I mentioned, be conscious of who you're listening to. This is the Great Idaho Show. I'm Dylan Stalker. I'm an old school fan of the sheriff. I know and have a belief in my heart that the sheriff is working for the greater good. And I believe in the sheriff, and it is countywide, whether you live in an apartment building or you're stuck out there in the middle of nowhere, or you are a fool and went out into the mountains without any safety gear whatsoever and needed your sheriff to come and save you. Please study what you do before you get out there. Again, this is Dylan Stalker, The Great Idaho Show, thegreatidahoshow.com, 670 AM, 93.1 FM, KBOI. KBOI, welcome back. Dylan Stalker here, your host, The Great Idaho Show. Again, this is the Sheriff Series, talking to Matt Clifford, Ada County Sheriff. We've had a couple of segments talking about who are you, where are you from, hey, what is the legislative disconnect, and what is this 287G all about? We should flame everybody involved just because we don't understand what's happening. But once again, I clarify, I am a fan of the sheriff. I am a fan of law and order. I am a fan of anybody whose job is to make sure that we are doing the law within the boundaries of the Constitution, not just the mayor or the state. So, Matt, this is a segment where I welcome you to talk about anything that you would like. I could ask you a question, or you might have some things that are challenging you, or you're like, man, you don't know this is going on and we should talk about it.
You know, I'd love to do is kind of, I know we have just a few minutes, but I'd love to talk about kind of where things were when I started in law enforcement and where we've come today.
I love it.
I mean, it's amazing. If you go way back and you look, I don't know if you know, the first sheriff of Ada County was hanged in Elmore County.
Oh my goodness!
The sheriff.
I can't claim to be all about Idaho and history and not know that. Thank you for telling me.
The very first sheriff of Ada County was named David Updike. So I have little notes, like 1864, right? And he was a criminal, and he made his way into. He got through the election, and then he would hire other stagecoach robbers as deputies, and they would go rob stagecoaches.
Sounds like a Chicago-style racket.
Yeah, it was not good.
Yeah,
and he only made it about 7 months, and then he had to resign over misusing taxpayer money of all things, not robbing stagecoaches. But they caught him in Elmore County finally and hung him. And there's actually one of those kind of folklore things that David Updike's treasures out there somewhere in Elmore County. But you look at that type of thing coming to today, where we're at, and how much the community relies on law enforcement and how much they expect out of us. And one of the things I always tell people, because everybody's like, well, gosh, we're under a microscope.
Everything
definitely.
You do, yep.
But for good reason, right? And this is what I say. I say it to all of the new recruits that come through the academy, because they're just starting in law enforcement. I say, yes, you're under a microscope. We're wearing body cams now. Everything's recorded. I can tell how fast your car was going, where it was sitting, how long it was sitting, all of those things. You are under a microscope. But that's because law enforcement in America is the most intrusive form of government that we have. And it sounds strange to have a sheriff. It sounds like a negative thing.
I appreciate that you respect that and you understand that.
There's no other form of government that comes into your home or stops you while you're traveling to somewhere. I'm going to the grocery store and tells you there's no other form of government that says you're going to stay right here and don't move. And now get out of your car and stand right here. Don't move. Oh, by the way, we're taking your kids because of A, B, and C, or we're taking your dog. I don't know, whatever it is. So you have to be under a microscope, and you have to understand that, and you can't complain about it, right? Because I'm a U.S. citizen too. I don't know if you knew that. So I live in the community.
My goodness!
No, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, when people say I pay your salary, I know what I say. So do I. Isn't that weird?
Seriously.
But you have to understand that and accept it to say we really are an arm of the government that is the most visible to any community and is contacted the most and is the most intrusive. So we have to train to our highest ability. We have to hire the right people. We have to make sure everybody's acting ethically. We can't put up with crap from within it. You can't sweep things under the rug. You can't do those things because we're that piece of government that goes into your house. Yeah. And so I like new people to understand that of, hey, no, this is a fantastic profession, but like any American, I really want the government to also respect me as a citizen. And this piece of government is right here, standing next to me to get an ice cream cone, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's the only piece of government that is you see visually of, look at badges and patches and uniforms, right? If you see that with the military, you're probably it's bad, right? You're probably in a war-torn country.
We've turned the corner for sure.
But in the community, you see you physically see this piece of government in front of you. So yeah, we're under a microscope, and we have to be, and we have to behave ourselves.
It's funny you say that. I have come from a long experience in corporate America, the most micromanaged thing you've ever done in your life. Mm-hmm. Very similar, so I relate. And I personally, my thing was, I'm going to know all your rules better than you do. I'm going to keep track of myself better than you do. And at the end of the day, you're going to come down and tell me what I'm doing right or wrong. And I'm going to look down at the paper and be like, but this is what I did within all your stuff. And it is, honestly, it's a great opportunity for a person coming in to be a deputy and know the rules and be like, I don't care that there's a camera. I'm a professional. Camera there, camera not. I'm a professional. You can inspect me in any which way but loose. I did it by the book, and that should be the badge of pride for any deputy out there. And it is almost a thing that when the cameras come up, it validates the fact that you studied, you listened, and yeah, we're all human, which means we're flawed inherently. And hopefully you work for a sheriff or an organization that understands those flaws and you never do it again. But man, it seems like honestly an advantage to doing great police work.
Yeah, 100%. And if I have a second for a quick story relating just to that, I'm standing in Cecil Andrews Park a number of weeks ago at an event that was happening there, and I just went down there to kind of participate and be present. I wasn't there for any kind of security or anything.
Yeah.
And I had a First Amendment auditor come up to me and kind of shove his
interesting, yeah.
And now this guy's
let me clarify. We're in radio land here, so they don't know that you're in civilian gear or you were
I was
Sheriff
in uniform.
Matt Clifford in uniform.
All uniform. And he doesn't know I'm the sheriff.
Sure.
He wasn't from here. But his goal is to get clicks on
100%.
To say, if I can catch this guy slipping, that's what I get. In fact, we went and looked at his play. Yeah, it's all cops saying, get that thing out of my face.
Yeah.
But I know, I've been in this business for 25 years, and I know what's happening here. And we just deflated his balloon because he said, "What's your name and badge number?" And I said, "Oh, it's Matt Clifford, 4494."
My name is Matt Clifford, 6182947.
And then the deputy was with me. He's guy. Well, what about you? And he said the same thing. And I was polite to him and like, "Oh, okay, yeah." And I was wearing my cowboy hat. He's like, "Oh, something about my hat." I'm like, "You should probably get one too. I mean, You don't have a lot of hair. You're gonna get sunburned. You know, but anyway, he just it kind of deflated him because he's like, well, these guys are professional, and I'm not going to be able to get a rise out of them. So he just left. You know, but again, it's annoying. But it goes to just what you said. If we really want to train professionals, and sometimes we get caught slipping, we're not gonna lie, right?
We're human.
You said it best. We're human.
Yeah.
But for the most part, this is a profession. It is a professional occupation, and so we want to hire for that. We want to train to that, and we want a guy that sticks the phone in your face to feel deflated when we're like, "What are you doing?"
Wouldn't it feel so wonderful to know that every one of your deputies were prepared for that moment? And it's like how to diffuse the social media clip whore, basically, and just be like, well, talk like it's old school, ladies and gentlemen, be thankful, be positive, and just, have a little bit of charisma and don't say anything that you shouldn't say.
100%. And that's kind of how I operated.
It's like a great opportunity.
Little bit of humor, like, okay, we're just talking here. And then okay, thank you. And he left. And he's not the only person I did that he did that to, that was like, well, I can't get what I need from these cops, so I'm done.
His shopping experience was immediately deflated.
It was not.
They didn't have their Michael Kors purse that day. So we've got about a minute and 45 seconds, a minute and 30. In the final parts of this, anything that you would like to share that comes to mind? This is the Great Idaho Show, the Sheriff Series, Matt Clifford, Ada County.
You know what I would say? Now I'm a little bit biased because I'm from Idaho. I've been doing this job a long time, and so I defend it over and over and over. But I think it's fair to tell the community, whether you're in Boise or you're in, Kamiah or Coeur d'Alene, wherever, you should be pretty thankful for the law enforcement that you do have here.
Absolutely.
Right? Again, not everybody's perfect, but for the most part, we really are hiring people that understand that they're in a people business. This is a people business, period. Yeah. We're not flying drones to people's houses to say, tell me what the problem is, sir.
Yes.
No, it's a people business. And the law enforcement across Idaho, they recognize that. And so, I think more here than a lot of other places in the country, you find people that are policing in your community.
Well, I'm going to point out the sheer thing that I've discovered to this point, and then we're going to wrap up.
Yeah.
The sheriffs that I have interviewed to date were generally born and raised in Idaho, in a culture of Idaho, had to work their way through the channels in Idaho in law enforcement, in the good old days of law enforcement where the character and the people still mattered and intelligence still mattered. And that's what you're experiencing today. And that's why all you moved here. This is the Great Idaho Show, thegreatidahoshow.com. This is Dylan Stucker. And don't forget, Old Arms of Idaho, your ambassadors to America's heritage.